911 dispatchers of Reddit. What is a seemingly dumb call you got which turned out to be serious? Got a call where the caller was on the highway and just screaming. Couldn't figure out what was wrong because he was so amped up. Ended up being someone got hit by a semi-truck or something and the body parts were all over the highway. Yikes. Damn. Was the caller involved in the accident or was he just passing? I think it's someone else. Got hit, and the caller wanted to call 911, but hasn't dealt with gore before. I work in police records, so I get to hear calls go out, talk to the cops, etc. A call comes in for an abandoned motorcycle on the side of the road. State patrol goes out, sees a motorcycle propped against the guardrail with heavy damage. Take a look around, don't see anyone. Have it towed. Next day, a missing person report comes in and we figure out that the towed MC belongs to the missing guy. They go back out and find his body about 50 yards back from where the bike was found. So, abandoned bike turned into a body recovery. That one stuck with me for a while. Poor guy just laying out there for a few days with everyone driving by. I live in Washington, so there is a lot of brush and trees right along the road in some places. I don't get it. You find a mangled bike and just tow it? No checking license plate, finding out who it belongs to? I mean, the guy might have been saved if they were a bit more thorough. Not dumb, but it was seemingly minor by the way it was portrayed to me. An elderly woman called her doctor, i.e. standard GP at a local clinic, and said her husband had accidentally shot himself and needed to let them know. The GP calls emergency and lets us know as they thought it sounded minor but police needed to be aware due to the gun aspect. Turns out, I call her, she sounds very surprised police were calling her and says in her old lady voice, "Oh, you know he's a silly old man. He shot himself in the garage." I ask where he is injured and she says he shot himself in the face, completely calm and serious. He had blown half his jaw off whilst sitting in the chair in the garage and was bleeding profusely. I think he wouldn't have survived but I'm unsure. I'll never forget her saying, "Silly insert name here, what have you done to yourself," in a sweet, calm, caring old lady voice. It's very interesting as a dispatcher to be exposed to how people react when they are in shock. Edit. Another one was, I thought, a crazy lady. It was a full moon night and very common to have mentally ill people call about weird things. Called talking about her son leaking in her living room and something knocking around her house. Very odd. Turns out after I did some searching in the system, her son was murdered a week earlier and lying in state in her living room. He had not been embalmed properly and was leaking black fluid on the floor. The undertaker was knocking at the door trying to be let in to fix the problem. That's straight up chilling. Old people are scary, lol. Nah, she was just shocked. It took my mom weeks to get upset over my dad killing himself in the bathroom. At first she was perfectly fine. Then she was angry at him for leaving her behind. Then like 3 weeks later she totally broke down. Brains do weird things to cope with loss. Dude sent a picture of a body saying he had killed someone. Really bad quality picture. I thought it was lots of bullshit. Sent a unit just in case. Turned out legit murder. Not the hardest case to crack. You can text 911? Yes, you can. That is very good to know in case of home invasion and you are trying to stay hidden. Exactly what it's for. Also for people who are deaf, hard of hearing or unable to speak. Not a dispatcher, was USAF security forces a long time ago. Call was a kid home alone, about a monster in the closet, which was a bit weird, because the kid seemed a bit old for that. Holy fuck, there's a snake in the closet that's gotta be at least 150 pounds. Promptly close closet door. Nope, right the fuck on out of that, kid in hand. Called animal control, called parent arrives first, indicates they don't even own a snake, let alone a people-sized snake. All parties agree, monster in closet was accurate enough description of events. TLDR, monster in closet turned out to be real. Not the same, but when my little brother was about 5 he was freaking out about a monster under his bed. The parents were useless lazy idiots and refused to go up despite him being obviously terrified, so I went up, I am 9 years older than him, and sure enough there was banging and noises coming from under his bed. He had a captain's bed, hollow underneath with 2 drawers but otherwise completely closed, and a huge June bug had managed to get under it and was making a ton of noise trying to find a way out. This happened again a month later with the cat. Cat was banging a June bug. Nice. Well, time to start writing my fanfic. Noise complaint. Neighbor playing music too loud and no complainant. Only reason an officer responded was because he was bored. Turns out it was a 14-year-old girl whose parents were out of town. She invited the 25-year-old man from a town 3 hours away to come over and have sex with her all night long. Cops showed up and found her, him, some beer, and a bunch of condoms laying around. He went to jail. She went to the children's home till her parents could get back. This is like what you see on Datelines To Catch a Predator, except it almost went according to plan. It makes me sick to think that if not for loud music playing and a bored cop, this guy probably would have went on back home with no repercussions. Really late to the party, but it's worth telling. My center took a call from a number like 5 times in an hour, always radio silence on the other end. On the 6th call we finally heard enough of a voice to know someone was there and got an address and enough to know it was serious. Make entry to the house and find the caller. A man had picked up his soon-to-be ex-girlfriend to talk. He then duct taped her mouth and zip-tied her wrists and ankles and spent the next 14 hours beating her with a bat, raping her, used a blowtorch to give her second-degree burns all over her legs and genitals, and broke her cheekbone. It was an absolutely terrifying moment, and what made it worse was on review of the tape we could hear her say help on one of the previous calls, but couldn't hear it on the initial call-in. I thought centers always responded to calls and sent someone out to check, even if you can't tell, just in case. I'm assuming in various home invasion forcible situations a person may not be able to freely talk on the call, especially if they are making repeated calls. We've made progress with text to 911 that helps in these cases, but without the program we often can't do much if there is no answer on call back. We send an officer to check the area on all calls, but without a solid address it's a guessing game, especially if no one can answer on call back and if we don't have past history in the area or with the phone number. Not dispatcher, but dumb call. I work at an urgent care, and a lady called and casually said her son was struck by lightning. He seemed fine, but his primary doc wanted her to take him in for an EKG and to check out his cardiac enzymes. Told her to go to the emergency room, and she said, "Well, can't you do an EKG? Bitch, your son was struck by lightning. He needs to be monitored, as these symptoms can show up later. His heart rhythm is probably fucked." Definitely thought she was gonna tell you she already rubbed him with some oils and he was fine. Ah yes, the old lighting strike essential oil. A must have for your collection. Had a hang up 911 call just before shift change. Flow procedure and call back. Get mom on the phone who said small child was playing with phone. We sent someone from roll call out. When I got back 8 hours later it was brought back up to me because the 7-year-old playing with the phone was actually calling 911 because mom bit a large hole in her cheek. What the fuck? Some people are just monsters. Caller called in on a roadside help phone. Started yelling about being kidnapped and trying to be killed out in the desert. Hung up. Eventually got units out there and sure enough he's hiding in the bushes, duct taped and tied up in tire tracks nearby where he escaped from them. Said he had seen them driving by, which was why he had to hang up and hide. Never did find the kidnappers though. We all assumed it was a hoax from the initial call and disconnect. Quote. Good to know that if I'm ever really in a crazy life or death situation like that, the emergency responders will just assume it's a crank call just because I hung up early. Yeah, no kidding. How do you hear, "I've been kidnapped and they want to kill me"? And your initial response is, "Hey Joe, get a load of this one, LOL. So we got a call from a couple a few years back that said they had dated edibles and thought they were gonna die and all that. Obviously we thought they were just anxious from the marijuana. It turned out when we got to their apartment that the marijuana they had gotten was laced and we had to rush them to the emergency room because when we got there they were passed out. So that's my story, Reddit. Oh man. I've heard lots of these from the husband. Woman ate an entire pack of THC gummy bears, you know, because she didn't feel anything after the one, and was now clinging to the front lawn for her life. Because if she let go, she'd be flung off the earth into space. She refused ambulance transport because she'd have to let go of the lawn. They still laugh about that one. That's what happens when you forget your gravity harness in Australia. Thanks for watching everyone. Subscribe if you want to. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video.